This episode is brought to you by the travel agency. Now boarding, taking off by flower, edible, or pre-roll. The travel agency. A cannabis store.
Through hallways and alleys, dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies. All days be heavy when you're programmed to survive. Legendary ciphers get the MCs in the jobs. The city never sleeps, slept from 1 to 5. When COVID hit the block and we had to stay inside. Tough love is all I know, so be gentle with my soul. Learn to navigate winters with no coat. If you never been cold, you never been broke. Hustle 24/7 just to stay afloat. So New York, like dollar pizza in that cold world shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit.
I may be poor, but I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be uneducated, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected. I must be protected. I am somebody. Right on. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive on tomorrow night and beyond. Young America, hold your head high now. We can win. You must never stop dreaming. Face reality, yes, but don't stop with the way things are. Dream of things as they ought to be. Dream. Face pain, but love, hope, faith, and dreams will help you rise above the pain. Use hope and imagination as weapons of survival and progress, but you keep on dreaming, young America. Dream of peace. Peace is rational and reasonable. War is irrational in this age and unwinnable. Dream of teachers who teach for life and not for living. Dream of doctors who are concerned more about public health than private wealth. Dream of lawyers more concerned about justice and the judgeship. Dream of preachers who are concerned more about prophecy than profiteering. Dream on the high road with sound values. You must never surrender to inequality. Women cannot compromise ERA or comparable word. Women are making 60 cents on the dollar to what a man makes. Women cannot buy meat cheaper. Women cannot buy bread cheaper. Women cannot buy milk cheaper. Women deserve to get paid for the work that you do. It's right and it's fair. I'm often asked, Jesse, why do you take on these tough issues? They're not very political. We can't win that way. If an issue is morally right, it will eventually be political. It may be political and never be right. Fannie Lou Hamer didn't have the most votes in Atlantic City, but her principles have outlasted every delegate who voted to lock her out. Rosa Parks did not have the most votes, but she was morally right. Dr. King didn't have the most votes about the Vietnam War, but he was morally right. If we're principle first, our politics will fall in place. When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you are qualified and you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond. Keep hope alive. I love you very much.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Hey, everyone, I want to thank you for joining us for Cannabis in the City. And before we got started, we had to take this opportunity to recognize and acknowledge a lion of the civil rights movement here in America, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who we've just lost, an icon to the work, the communities we serve, and the work that we do.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much I can say other than, you know, we are all feeling the loss. I wouldn't call it the loss, you know. I look at it as he transitioned.
Yeah, I like that.
He is transitioned to the realm of ancestor, right? And so he is still with us, but he is an ancestor right now.
And it's one of the things that I share with my students and everyone that I do this work with, that, you know, we had our great leaders who transcended, and now our ancestors transitioned, and now our ancestors. And the important part is that they have passed the baton to this generation.
That's right.
To carry on, to make this world, as Reverend Jackson said, to make it a better place for those after us.
Yeah.
So again, we want to acknowledge that.
You know, something that that really touched me is the "I am somebody."
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I see that footage, it's like I am somebody, and I think for me, when I think about it and how that really lands and resonates in my life, is I am worthy. You know, I am worthy. I am worthy of all that, you know, this life has for me, and just what in fact he was like cultivating and nurturing in our communities.
Spirits. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And so then he touched on dreams, you know, and dreaming. And I always say, you know, what happens to a dream deferred, as our great, you know, poet Langston Hughes would say. And I say, well, what happens to a people deferred?
No,
right?
That's powerful.
So he is a lion.
A lion.
And the lion continues to reign and roar within all of us. And so for that, his legacy will live on.
And that's why we continue to be here, and this is why we'll continue to do the work of the Cannabis Justice Equity Initiative. Listen, everybody, we want to welcome you to our show today. Today we have two special guests. Rob Gales, Director of Operations and Processing and Manufacturing at HP Wellness. Also Dr. Joseph Williams from NYU, who founded his work in Credible Clinicians. And his work is just tremendous, and I think it's going to be revolutionary to the work of social work, and when we think about some of the models that are out there. So I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation with him.
And of course, we got Sean and Jeffrey on Justice and Cannabis.
Exactly.
Clean Slate New York is, I think, what they're going to hit up, the promise, the gaps, and your next step. And I got to say, we got on Corner Boyz, as you just said, Dr. Joseph Williams, NYU doctoral graduate, and community news for March.
For March.
Right?
I want to also share, which I don't think I told you, I was in Albany for the Black Caucus Legislative Weekend. It was absolutely amazing, the work that's taken place within the state, and the commitment of our leadership, Kathy Hochul, in regards to the work that's going to be happening throughout the state in regards to C and communities, disproportionately impacted in communities, and that work. Tosin was there, Roy Allen from Cannabis NYC. Shout out to Cannabis NYC. It was great to see you guys there. I saw Damian Fagan there.
Nice.
So amazing people in that space. So again, we are excited to be here. We are ready for this show. We
I like your
you
pants.
get ready. Oh, you like the pants? Y'all know who I give her the homage to. And then she always tell me she don't. She say I don't really like camouflage. It's just like the color green, but she'll just carry it over.
Green to brown,
so I'm just you see it.
It's a war out here. Anyway, sit back and relax. Get that Courvoisier or whatever it is you sip on at this hour of the night, and we'll be right back. So let's start this. Let's spark the conversation.
Let's spark the conversation.
All right.
See you in a minute.
See you in a bit. Peace, fam, and welcome back to Let's Talk Cannabis. Last episode, we pulled open the door to the ancillary market, showing you how you do not have to own a plant-touching license to build real ownership and power in this industry. But today, we're going to explore yet another lane of opportunity. Behind every flower jar, every vape cart, every gummy, and every pre-roll, there's a machine, a system, a production line, and most importantly, a skilled human running it. Cannabis is not just the culture. It's manufacturing, it's engineering, it's automation, it is technology. So today's question is simple and powerful. What are the technical, transferable skills actually running this industry? And how can black and brown folks get them? Before we bring in our expert technical guest, we're gonna run back to the streets to hear what folks really know or don't know about these kinds of jobs in cannabis. Let's go to what you heard with our Tech Flex. So, what jobs do you know of or you think exist when you hear about cannabis and cannabis jobs beyond bud tender and say grower?
When I had a previous conversation, I really didn't have that much knowledge of it, but I realized that there is the tech aspect that I really don't know much about, but I find it intriguing and something to find more about so we can help overall with everything else that's going on in the cannabis business.
I would assume there's like the legality side of it, so like lawyers, and it's a business, right? So people in finance and like that aspect. You said not growers,
right?
Marketing, product packaging, design.
That's a great question, but those are the opportunities that they don't really share with the community. The things that you can possibly be involved in outside of bud tending and sales, like Salesforce, because there's many avenues, advertising, things like that, but they don't discuss those opportunities with people from the community. It's like, oh, you smoke weed, you can get in, but the upper tiers, the glass ceiling, we're going to continue to see because they don't even give us the information on how to enter those avenues.
Well, the things that people have to realize is that cannabis, just like anything else, is a business. And when you think about the business, you have to think about all the different aspects of the business, not only distribution, not only growth, quality control, safety aspects. So these are different pieces in it that you have to, be able to make sure that they're in there, especially right now, as we have this big thing going on with fentanyl being brought in to the cannabis so very easily. What are we doing as far as those quality controls?
Get a step further, have you heard any, have you heard of, say, like automation or programming in the field of cannabis?
I haven't. I don't even know what that looks like.
Honestly, no. And I really don't know many people that know beyond what I know, which is just the basics. Because we're not that entrenched in it because it's a new field and we're trying to get all aspects, but some stuff we just don't know yet. We're an older population also. We're a little bit, not this new young generation, everything is on a computer.
Right.
Well, being in the industry of construction, automation is coming no matter whether you like it or not. What we as humans, as people have to do is how much automation are we going to permit and where and when and how? Because the thing with automation is also, as we thinking about the business of cannabis, what is going to happen is that sub jobs, while we're going to lose, we're also going to gain. So do we have the ability to pivot to where it is that those new jobs now are going to be?
Nothing at all. Like the whole push is really just basically dealing with dispensaries on the lower level of entry, and not really thinking and reimagining other opportunities and possibilities for cannabis.
Thank you. And so, like, final question I'll ask, in terms of, education, do you think that a college degree is necessary to work in, cannabis and specifically tech space in cannabis?
Honestly, like I've told people before, degrees are not some of the most non-smart people have degrees. You're only limited by what you're willing to learn and adapt to, I believe.
I see.
If you have an ability to adapt and learn, you can learn anything. Just because you're not one of the few that were lucky to be able to get through and get to college and get a degree, there's a lot of smarter people than people with degrees in the world. And you and I know, black and brown, that just didn't have the opportunity or the ability to go far in life in that aspect.
Do I think it's required?
Yeah.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because I think there's like real time, like job training. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like lived experience that can be applied to that. So I think it helps, yes, but I don't think it's necessarily required. Yeah.
No, I don't think you need a college degree. I think that's another way to kind of cut people from the community out. And to be honest, because a lot of things are innate for the fact that a lot of us been dealing with marijuana since we've been kids, and dealing with computers since we've been kids. So to marry the two doesn't, I don't believe, needs a college degree to be able to get in and actually make some headway with it, because I think the community holds a lot of people that have special qualities that don't get the opportunity.
From an education standpoint, as it relates specifically to our community, do we need a college degree to do tech jobs, if you will, in cannabis?
Just like any other job, knowledge is key. And what I believe is that we need to go back to the history of cannabis, because what a lot of people have forgotten is that cannabis was in our medical textbooks. Cannabis was used as medicine. Why did we get away from that? Okay. And it's funny how it is now, after all these years of it being criminalized, that's exactly where we're going again.
Yerd? Most people have, respectfully, no idea how technical this industry actually is. But inside processing, manufacturing, cultivation facilities, skilled technicians, mechanics, and programmers are the backbone of operations. Today on Let's Talk Cannabis, we're talking about those transferable technical skills, automation, mechanics, robotics, programming, maintenance, and systems that keep this industry moving. I am both excited and humbled to be joined by our expert guest, Rob Gales, Director of Operations, Processing and Manufacturing at HP Wellness, a Tier 1 Black and female-owned processor right here, NYC, Brooklyn. Rob has been like on the inside with the machines, the production lines, the systems that actually make this industry run. Welcome to Let's Talk Cannabis.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Let's have the conversation.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
What's
sir.
really good, I'm just really energized to have you in this conversation because tech and cannabis is way bigger than I think people even realize.
And they go hand in hand quite a bit.
Oh man, you ready?
I'm ready.
So let's talk cannabis.
Yes, sir.
All right. So when people think of cannabis jobs, right? As I said in the What You Heard segment, they really think about those front of house, those customer facing bud tender,
Yeah.
the glorified grower, but it kind of stops right there.
Yeah.
For the most part. So from your vantage point at HP Wellness, what are the technical jobs that most people don't see?
Well, I think you're 100% correct. I think, when I say cannabis, a lot of people do think retail, right? And they do think cultivation. But, my job as just sort of head of operations is to make sure that I ensure that, processes are going correct, that we have a controlled environment, at our facility. So things like making sure that when we bring flower in, that it's in a controlled room. We have machines that do semi-auto, autonomous jobs, like with pre-rolls. We have filtration systems that we actually have to maintain as well, with, rosin, when we're doing rosin and cold washes as well. Some of the other things that we, have to control is sort of ventilation as well. So quite a few things that you have to do to maintain, a certain condition.
And all of those things require a human.
Yes.
Right?
They do require a human.
So that's a job.
That's a job, but we try to basically take some.
So that's like 20 jobs. Me, I'm a Jamaican, right? So Jamaicans that old from like in Living Colors, like, yo, how many jobs in my
Yeah.
Why you want to sit in mine? I have 20 jobs.
Listen, somebody's got to work hard to make sure it's happening, right? I mean, there's definitely a lot of jobs, but where the tech comes in is a lot of these processes are becoming automated. For example, we have sensors and things in our actual facility that allows us to pretty much record different temperatures. So we're able to take that information in. We're also starting to go a little bit more into the automation with PLC, programmable logic controllers.
So really what we're talking about is manufacturing,
100%,
engineering,
100%,
and technology,
100%.
right? Just happening inside a cannabis facility instead of a traditional factory.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, let's jump forward. So for someone in our audience who's worked in let's say a warehouse, a
Yes.
factory,
Yep.
HVAC, mechanics,
Yep.
or even IT.
Yep.
What skills transfer directly into cannabis processing and manufacturing?
100%. So let's start with IT.
Okay.
A big part of compliancy is things like cameras, right? Making sure that we're recording, making sure that everything is actually being recorded onto like a NOS, right? We have to make sure we're in compliancy when the state comes in, OCM, they want to see footage. We actually have to have the network, actually facilitate that to be able to store that. So IT skills definitely come in for that. Database, right? Now we're starting to deal with metric. We're starting to basically log and scan things that are coming in and out. So a lot of that needs to be stored also. We have servers and actually, setups in our facility to where we're scanning products coming in and out. Okay. And, a big part of it also is preventative maintenance. So even to where we have a system to where we're getting low on certain products or certain parts, that it automatically knows what's low and starts to order things in as well. So that's a part of what we do.
So like someone who, let's say, works at Amazon.
Yes.
Or UPS, a plant, or an auto shop.
Yes.
They kind of already have a head start.
100%. And I think, cannabis in a lot of ways is very much in step sync with what you already see in food processing and even pharma. So a lot of those processes that are already in place in those industries are also what we sort of implement here in cannabis.
All right, so let's jump forward here.
Yes.
Let's talk automation and programming,
Yes,
right? When you say programming inside a cannabis facility,
Yes.
what does that actually look like from a day-to-day perspective?
So I'll give you an example. So we have an automatic pre-roll machine, right, that we use that can easily pump out 1,000 pre-rolls per hour.
1,000 per hour?
1,000 per hour.
That's like 1,000 people.
Literally, if you were using
But it's one machine.
Right. So,
okay.
I think for a lot of people, they're used to systems like knock boxes and other types of setups that,
Okay.
you can pump out pre-rolls and you have to kind of, actually close them manually. But this machine will actually take those pre-rolls from an actual pot, right? We use a centrifuge, you put it into the machine, and it's automated to basically pump it out. Programming part comes into where we have to calibrate the machine depending on the flower, right? Depending on the density of the flower, also depending on the size, whether we're doing 0.5s, 0.7s, 1 gram. So that is a part that, that a technician has to go in and make sure that we're programming to make sure the machine is calibrated correctly for that. So that would be one example of programming, within our day-to-day.
And like automation.
Yes, semi-automatic, right? You still need quality control checks. You still need a human being to be able to, make sure that they're monitoring the system, but definitely sped up.
So like, I know we're doing this out of order because this is just how I roll.
Let's roll.
But like, your background, MTA, like the subway cars, train system that we ride, like you're an MTA engineer.
Yep. Definitely.
Like,
so you're
in cannabis.
So 100%. So basically was a contractor for the MTA.
Okay.
Twofold. I actually worked in car procurement. So newer cars coming in, making sure we're checking systems, making sure that everything is good before it goes to the client, which would have
So you're like kind of smart. Like you're a bit of a brain.
Listen, been doing it. 45, been doing it for over 20 years, man.
You were like breaking open like radios and stuff like that
Definitely
when you were a
that
kid.
type
Like,
of
yeah,
kid.
I'm gonna break it all apart. Parents is like, what you doing, boy?
Well, listen.
And then you like, I got it, and you put it all back and it works.
Definitely wanting to go through
Okay.
how things work, right?
All right.
But when you do something for quite a bit, right, you get better at it as you go through. It's really a process of elimination and just critical thinking skills, right? A lot of the actual, some of the processes that we apply in HP Wellness comes from working with the cars with the MTA, right? So for example, like, if we're working on subway cars, a lot of times you have preventive maintenance protocols, right? Scheduled maintenance, things like that. These are things that we try to apply as well to stay ahead of the actual machines that we have running and also making sure that we have redundancies as well. So time is money.
So I remember you, so we're talking sensors,
Yes.
software systems, real tech.
Yeah.
Just applied to cannabis.
And I mean, and it's still a young industry. There's so many other ways in cannabis that you can innovate. I mean,
So what are some of the machines inside the processing facilities? I get excited when I go inside a processing facility. I'm like, what? Wait, what?
Right.
So what would some of those machines be like, for instance, that people would be shocked to learn about?
I think a lot of times people are actually really shocked, not only with the pre-roll, we also have vape machines that
Okay.
also allow us to
That
refill
fill the
Right,
cartridges,
so we use
okay.
nitrogen for that
Right.
as well. Distillate has to be kept at a certain temperature, so it's very important, and we have sensors that monitor that as well,
Okay.
right? To make sure that we have certain viscosity for, our distillates that are going into vapes.
You're building a cold room.
At 100%. So we do have a cold room. With that would have to be knowledge of, making sure insulation, like we have to do R25 insulation. You have to make sure you have vapor barriers, things like that to keep it cool. So inside of our actual cold room, we do have sensors that monitor relatively, humidity. Relative humidity, we want to make sure that we keep it 50 to 45.
Rob,
45. Okay.
All this
All right.
is, you're breaking my brain. All right.
All right.
You are saying that is a word, as I like
It
to
is
say,
a
right?
word.
That is a word. So, and my audience knows what that is. Every one of those machines, right,
Yes.
needs someone to run it, fix it, optimize it,
Yep.
right? Okay. So, what I get to this point every time in our show where I'm just like, I have so many more questions that I really love to ask you, but that just means that we got to do this again.
Well, I'm where's the
part
camera?
2, part 3.
I'm ready.
It's so
I'm
rich.
ready. It's a lot. I'm trying to do a lot,
so
trying
rich.
to squeeze it in there.
You know.
But I do want to say, anyone that has already worked in manufacturing, like you just mentioned some people that, UPS, like they already have a leg up.
Right.
Anybody that has HVAC skills, like we just had to deal with an HVAC technician
Right.
earlier this week to make sure that,
Right.
Our facility was cool in certain ways.
So these are the pathway forward.
Absolutely. Even
Okay.
carpenters, right? We
Right.
need people to build. These skills are definitely, electricians, right? We deal a lot with power as well. So anyone that, has skills and, even an electrician, like we deal with higher voltage machineries. We deal with machines that are up to 480 volts, right? Single phase, 3-phase. So,
And this is exactly why CJEI exists, in terms of bringing, the knowledge and the opportunities that exist in the industry, in the space to the community, for folks who actually, they already know. Not even that they already know, that they already are doing this work,
100%.
So real skills, real careers, real pathways, that are in the industry. Today, really and truly, today was about building real technical power,
right.
In the cannabis space. Cannabis is not just a plant.
It's a lot more.
It's a system,
Yep.
right? And systems need skilled people.
100%.
So I'm talking to y'all. If you're good with your hands, good with machines,
Get on it.
good with tech, or just tech curious, this industry needs you. And we're going to keep showing you exactly how you can get on. All right?
Ripe for innovation.
Ripe.
A lot of
Still
room for innovation.
early innings. So, hit us up with your feedback on the show. Right? Follow CJEI for training pathways. Rob, thank you so much. I can't.
pleasure.
I'm so
Hopefully we
thrilled
weren't
that you
talking
could-
too fast. Wasn't going. We're trying to squeeze a lot.
This
in a little
is
bit of time,
a lot
but
in. This is a lot. Subscribe to Cannabis in the City and share this episode with someone who works in the trades, tech, or manufacturing because they might already belong in the industry. Much more when we return. Thank you so much.
Yes,
man.
my pleasure, man.
Thank
Welcome back to Justice and Cannabis, where we break down what's growing, what's glowing, and what's going wrong in New York's legal green rush. I'm your host, Sean Farrell of CGI's Justice Lab, and right beside me, co-hosting this combo, is my colleague and co-pilot and also co-counsel, Jeff Hoffman.
Always good to get into it, Sean.
So on tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the historic fight in the Promise, the landmark law that is the Clean Slate Act. This wasn't just a bill, it was a 3-year political battle that created a historic coalition. Justice advocates sat down with business leaders from JP Morgan Chase and law enforcement, and all united by one powerful idea, that the best way to keep our community safe is to make sure people who serve the time can actually work, live, and build a stable life.
So that's the vision, Sean. And the mechanism for this is automatic sealing. The idea is that if you have a misdemeanor conviction and you stay out of trouble for 3 years from your date of sentence, then the state is going to automatically seal your record. And if you have a felony, it's 8 years from the date of your sentence. Now, this is an automatic sealing. That means you don't have to file any kind of application with the court. You don't have to pay for an attorney, at least in theory. We'll see how it actually plays out as this law comes into full effect. But for millions of New Yorkers, this is the promise of this Clean Slate Act, a clean future where they can re-engage with society and not continue to be burdened by their conviction. Although, as we always know, that's where the promise meets reality, and often a very complicated reality. The first thing that the folks watching need to understand is how this relates to the cannabis law and the expungements that were called for in the cannabis law. How did that work, Sean?
So this is where we need to be absolutely precise, because this is the gap that will trap thousands of people. If your old conviction was for a now legal cannabis offense, the Clean Slate Act is blind to it. It was written as a general criminal justice reform, not as a fix for the specific failures of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, otherwise known as MRTA. Here's what that means in practice. First, it ignores the existing backlog. Tens of thousands of cannabis cases are stuck in a state of limbo right now. They're caught between the old repeal law and a new imperfect system for clearing them. Clean Slate does not process, prioritize, or touch that backlog. It looks right past it. Second, and this is the legal crux of the issue, it does nothing to correct the severe and ongoing consequences. The drafting error in the CPL 440.46A law that we talked about before. That's the technical flaw that forces people to prove that their conviction caused major lasting harm just to get it cleared, a requirement that the original drafters of the MRTA never intended. Now we see judges are wrestling with this error in courtrooms right now, and Clean Slate offers them no guidance and no fix. And in essence, it leaves the broken mechanisms in place. So for our audience, for the person who had a cannabis charge from 2010 or from a sale conviction from 2015, hearing about automatic sealing can feel like a cruel joke. The law that legalized the activity does not guarantee your record is cleared, and the new law that clears your record does not see your conviction. You fall squarely through the cracks between the two major reforms. This isn't just a gap, it's a central failure of our justice that our work at the Justice Lab is built to address directly.
And there's another key distinction that folks need to understand. We lawyers are very specific about the words that we use.
Yep.
And when it comes to this new Clean Slate Act, we're talking about sealing records and not expunging them or erasing them. The record doesn't vanish into thin air, it is simply sealed. And the problem with that is that even though it is sealed, it is still available in some situations.
Yes.
FBI background checks will often have things that are sealed, still appear on them. Old documentation where it was available before it was sealed, sealing it doesn't go out in the universe and find all the places where it may exist and somehow miraculously make it vaporize. If you're looking at things such as getting a gun permit and certain type of employment situations, this may still be available to those entities looking at it. So it's very important that people understand sealing does not mean it disappears from the planet of the earth. And it may remove some barriers to the individuals that are having their record sealed, but it won't necessarily fix every issue that we come across.
So we understand that we have that issue. The expungement is not an option on the table, and so therefore it's only sealing. So let's walk through what that actually means and actually how it can help. Beyond those gaps, law has fine print that creates real traps. First, the implementation is the black box. The state has until November 2027 to seal millions of records. This is a massive, untested IT problem. In other states, similar systems have failed or made errors. So imagine it's 2028, you apply for an apartment and you get denied. You say, but my record's sealed. The landlord says, not in our system. You're stuck in that limbo with no clear way to prove you're right.
This is just one of several issues that we're going to be facing, Sean.
Another
one is what we call the fragility of the system.
Okay.
And the idea here is that the 3-year term and the 8-year term that need to run, that really means 3 years and 8 years. Let's say you had that felony and you've behaved for 7 years and 11 months and then have a new criminal charge, not even a conviction, just some other kind of negative interaction with the legal system, that can potentially completely reset the clock ticking towards the ability to have your record sealed.
So you're basically saying that if I'm there at 7 years, 364 days, that if one slip up happens, that could reset the whole clock and undo everything.
364 days, 23 hours, and 59 minutes, Sean. Lawyers are very specific. The way the legal system works is very specific. And therefore, you got to be clean as a whistle on these types of things. Any type of additional justice-involved issue may impact your ability to get your record sealed.
This brings to mind a third issue. It's a dangerous incentive that we know as lawyers here. In the courtroom, we're talking about the prosecutors and defense attorneys now know these waiting periods. there's a real risk that someone might be pushed to plead to a more serious charge just to trigger a longer 8-year seal, effectively adding years of collateral punishment. A law meant to help could be twisted to hurt.
This is unfortunately some of the not loopholes, some of the pitfalls that we see in the law that has been passed. There's even additional challenges similar to what I mentioned before, what we kind of call the collateral impacts. Just because your record has been sealed, like I said, it doesn't mean that there's some robot that goes out in the universe and fixes everything that was caused problematic from your conviction. If you have some type of public housing ban, if you have a suspended professional license, if you have some kind of child custody issues, all of this is still out there and needs to be cleaned up from the sealing of that record.
And this also affects immigration too.
Absolutely.
We know this has
Absolutely.
an outsized impact on immigration, and today, maybe more than ever, anybody with any immigration issues should certainly talk to a lawyer at that point. So what it sounds like is this is a complex landscape. And this is the exact reason why we exist here at the Justice Lab, right? We're here to explain the gaps, but more importantly, we're here to build the bridges so that you all can cross them.
That's absolutely correct, Sean. We encourage anyone that has had interactions with the legal system here in New York to reach out to us. We are here to assist in dealing with all of the issues resident with this type of situation. And we need to be very clear. Even though we do care about all of those that are convicted in getting their records sealed, we are the Cannabis Justice and Equity Initiative. And so therefore, cannabis is at the forefront and the wrongs that have been dealt into our society due to anti-cannabis enforcement. Clean Slate, while it does help sealing all records, is not specifically focused on the cannabis convictions and the ability for those convictions to be completely expunged via the cannabis law. So when you work with CJEI, one of the first things that we help folks do is figure out exactly what situation they're in. Verification of what is showing up on their records and coming up with a strategy about how to deal with that in the legal system. If you have a misdemeanor, that's helping you get your certificate of disposition, making sure everything is addressed in that it's been appropriately addressed. If you've got that felony, as we all know from our previous shows, you actually have to do something in court, file that 440 motion, and then take your chances with the judge and see what the judge wants to do about it. But at least you need lawyers, such as yourself and me, to assist you in removing the blocks that you can be put in place by the DA, by the judge, by the legal system to prevent you from getting that record expunged. And then, additionally, if you don't necessarily have a cannabis conviction, it's one that you get where perhaps will get sealed or that you may not be able to get sealed immediately, there are other remedies for individuals. There are certificates of relief and certificates of good conduct, which can help anyone that are eligible for them get relief to restore voting rights or any type of other issues related to criminal conviction, which you may have had.
That's exactly it. So as we wrap up here, folks, listen. If you have a cannabis conviction and it's holding you back or hindering you in some way, come talk to us. But even if you don't have that, yes, cannabis is our focal point, but even if you don't have that and you have some hindrance here, come talk to us. Because the last thing that we need is for this to be a vestige of the new Jim Crow, of slavery, of all the things that have been holding us back and creating a chain, if you will, around our ankles and keeping us from moving forward as individuals and certainly as a people. So it's the difference between hiding and overcoming. Clean Slate makes your record hard to find after a long wait. A certificate may give you a legal shield now that says you cannot be automatically denied a job, a license, or housing because of that record. And for that cannabis conviction, as we told you, Clean Slate does nothing. But a certificate can offer you a path forward. For a job you need this year, waiting 8 years is a lifetime. But we can help you get that certificate and provide relief now for you and your family. For stability, Clean Slate's reset rule is a constant threat. A certificate is a secure achievement. We help you get the right certificate, whether it's a certificate of relief from disabilities for one felony or misdemeanors, or a certificate of good conduct for multiple felonies. And we guide you through the application to the court. So think of it this way. Clean Slate is like a public health campaign, promising better overall wellness in the future. It's important, but generalized. We are the specialists. If you have a specific injury like a cannabis conviction or that's causing you pain right now, we don't tell you to wait for the general wellness plan. We diagnose the exact problem, perform the necessary procedure, and provide the rehabilitation so you can recover and function fully starting now.
So here's your call to action. Go and get your certificate of disposition. This is the most important document. This is the document that unlocks everything else we need to do. Many people I've dealt with are actually confused about what they were actually convicted of. Yep. They were originally arrested for one crime and then pled down, or the attorney had worked with the DA to maneuver it to another crime. So it's really important that you go and get this certificate of disposition, bring it to the Justice Lab. It lets us figure out with you, where do you really stand? What type of remedies can we do to help you? Is clean slate appropriate for you? Is the cannabis law and the expungement appropriate for you? Are one of these certificates appropriate for you? The key is you have to start. You have to go and get that certificate of disposition. You bring it to us, and then we can work with you to get you on a path to a better future without that conviction holding you back.
And that's the heart of our mission. So, till next time, let's keep pushing forward. I'm Sean Farrell. This is Jeff Hoffman. We're sparking change.
Hi, this is Professor Coffin. As you know, this is Corner Boyz, a segment dedicated to individuals and communities that have been adversely impacted, and talking about how do we get engaged in this space. And today I'm excited to have not only my friend and colleague at New York University, but also an individual whose life has really just been a powerful impact to the work that I do and the things that we're trying to achieve here. Dr. Joseph Williams, his work sits at the powerful intersection of the lived experience, clinical expertise, and structural analysis. As a returning citizen and an NYU doctoral graduate, a credible clinician, his perspective challenges the traditional narratives around justice, health, and policy, particularly as they relate to the evolving cannabis landscape, social equity, and justice in America. Dr. Joe, man, thank you for being here, my king.
Appreciate you, King. Thank you for having me.
Always. Listen, I know that one of the things we talk about is that your work brings together this lived experience, academic rigor, and the clinical practice in a way few people do. How has this journey from returning citizens shaped your understanding when we talk about credibility in the clinical workspace and policy spaces?
When we think about credibility, three things come to mind. Trustworthiness, respectability, and expertise. Mm-hmm. When we put that in the lens of a credible clinician, someone who has a lived experience of crime and mass incarceration, their lived experience gives them the credibility of how do you engage? How do you engage with clients who are impacted by systems, who are undergoing trauma in real time? Second, that clinical experience or that lived experience informs self-disclosure, right? If I'm working with someone and it's this idea of respectability, how can you trust me if you don't know nothing about me, right? And that old paradigm of the patriarchal system, I tell you and I am the expert. No, with credible clinicians, we center lived experience, so the client is the expert. And when we think about that from clinical practice as well as policy making, well, if I can't imagine you in the environment in real time, how can I engage you with interventions that fit you? If I'm a policymaker and I'm trying to come up with policies for change, if I don't situate the people who these policies impact the most at the table for change, then I'm making policies that just fit me.
You know, that's one part of the work that I just recently mentioned earlier, being in Albany, when we talk about this idea of cultural competence in understanding the communities and populations that we work with. And I think that your theory of the credible clinician, it emphasizes the importance of a lived experience as a clinical expertise in this space. Why is this framework especially relevant for justice-impacted communities?
Well, when we think of justice-impacted communities, in the literature, in the clinical world, my population is considered hard to reach, right? And so in order to reach them and engage them with therapeutic practices that work, right, that bring about that change, credible clinicians are the ones who are most equipped, right? I'm first and foremost, I have the lived experience of crime and mass incarceration. So that gives me the credibility of, I know what I'm talking about, right? Secondly, I practice in a way where I use self-disclosure. So it's not little you and big me. No, I'm fully open and honest so we can build this
That's
therapeutic.
the dynamics we talk about in social work, where the power struggle, one is here and one is here. And I think this goes into something I always share, that those of us who are closer to the problem are also closest to the solution.
Right.
And you bring that expertise and insight of that lived experience of individuals who have been impacted by our system in a way that we can digest, because when we come into a place, it's like, me and you chop it up and we're academias and we get to do all that. But when we talk, it's like, why?
Facts. And thinking about being on this segment of Cannabis in the City and Corner Boyz, right? I think about Jay-Z's, I show you how to do this, son. And when I think about credible clinicians, this is the third caveat, when we situate desistance. And desistance is a theory. How do individuals who have lived a life of crime desist from crime? So when we're talking about cannabis equity, well, this is a means that I get access to the formal economy based on something that I know, but based on something that ostracized me at one point. And with a credible clinician, I can model desistance for you. So not only do I give you the therapeutic jargon, not only do I open up my life to you to show you that is real, I show you how to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's when we talk about that identity theory, being able to recognize in another person our own lived experience that really has been seemingly, well, I don't want to say seemingly, has been one of the most impactful ways that we've seen changes within systems in which we live. When we talk about the tensions, and I know that, you and I talk a lot about this work and the work that we do at NYU, as well, particularly as it relates to your theory in relations to, how should I say it, one of those more recognized theories. What are the tensions that you're finding in introducing this concept of the credible clinicians in relations to some of our past theories that have governed the work and shaped the work of social work and engagement and through the lens of equity, social justice, et cetera, et cetera?
When I think about through the lens of equity and social justice and my framework, to center lived experience as the client is the expert, that's something that's new. That shifts the power dynamic. Like the table is literally switched around and changed. When we talk about policies and we talk about equity, there's one thing of you try to do a policy to make something legal, but does that means I actually have access to equity? And what the theory of credible clinicians changes the landscape of social work, because now here it is, I'm a formally incarcerated licensed clinical social worker with over 15 years incarceration experience, got shot when I was 18 years old, and here it is, I am Dr. Joe.
I was on your committee, I know.
I know,
Shout out to Dr. J and Dr. Starks, go ahead.
Shout out to Dr. J and Dr. Starks at NYU.
And I think that's another area that I want to go into. You just heard our previous segment on justice and cannabis. When we think about policy and how that impacts, because let me say this, because I think, one of the things that was the clarity, particularly when we think about, and I know you have your concerns about clean slate, both of us do, about how that is enacted. A person has to wait 3 years for a misdemeanor, 8 years for a felony, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see that work in conflicting with the lived experiences of individuals who may want to come into cannabis. Cannabis industry is just one space, but when we look at it as a whole, because I know that's a focal of your point from a bird's eye perch, and you're looking at it, how does that affect the outcomes of the clients that you meet, the communities that we serve and that you're engaging with?
When we think about the social determinants of health, and we think about systems, I'm always curious, does the system work? And people will argue, the system doesn't work, the system doesn't work, and I'll sit back and I'll laugh and say, no, but it really does, right? The system is designed to keep out who they want out and to keep in who they want in. So in designing different legislations that says, well, here's a caveat, but on the backside, these are the barriers that are in place based on your social determinants of health, based on where you are born, where you are raised, where you live, etc. And that then hinders you from actual equity. And so the contention and the push is, how do we change these systems?
So access, equity without access is what? Like, exactly. And you know, Jamil and I, we talk about a lot of this, where we saw a lot of this programming and what we're doing happening in other areas and other communities. And I think this is directly what you mean when you say, yeah, you can pass legislation, et cetera, et cetera. However, if it becomes, if it's not providing access, then again, it's like what we said, it's there. How do academic institutions, this is going to be my last question, when we think about academic institutions like NYU and clinical training programs more broadly, to better understand supporting justice-impacted scholars and practitioners and leaders, where do you see that falling at?
I see that as being a trailblazer. I'm first in the path, first of many,
Yes,
right? I'm
you
not
are.
alone, I'm first of many. And then being a trailblazer, I'm the first to knock down the trees, first to pick up the stump, first to pave the path. So as I think about credible clinicians and I think about different electives, different courses that can change how social work is taught, how social work is practiced, and then how social work impacts, input for impact, the lives of the clients that's most in need of social work services.
Yeah, and I think that this is another conversation that we had when we looked at the various models and theories that we implement, because part of what you said was that this idea under traditional social work was that we don't self-disclose, but for us it becomes an empowerment to empower those that we're trying to reach. Listen, this is Corner Boyz. This is Dr. Joe Williams. Brother, I want to thank you for coming on, but you know this is not our last conversation, because I'm on here and I see our executive director and I see my boy in the background. And I think it's really important for our communities to hear your voice, to know the impact of the work that you're doing on behalf of our communities through academia, through models and all those things. So listen, this is Corner Boyz. You're going to come back. You stay right there and we'll be right back. Thank you for joining me.
Todd's in the hospital.
From vaping. Promise you won't vape, Emma.
Not cool.
Wacky sitcom teens aren't the best people to talk to your kid about vaping.
Hey, you got a minute?
You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
That was our word. We'll see you next time. Let's spark the conversation.
Always in alleys, dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies. All days be heavy when you're programmed to survive. Legendary ciphers get the MCs in the jobs. The city never sleeps, slept from 1 to 5. When COVID hit the block and we had to stay inside. Tough love is all I know, so be gentle with my soul. Learn to navigate winters with no coat. If you never been cold, you never been broke. Hustle 24/7 just to stay afloat. So New York, like dollar pizza in that cold world shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That